I never thought my own sister would threaten me over something as stupid as babysitting, and I definitely never thought I'd end up canceling an entire $18,000 family vacation because of her. But that's exactly what happened, and honestly, even now I'm still trying to wrap my head around how things went so far off the rails. Tell me, was I wrong for what I did? Because I swear I tried to be the bigger person until she pushed me so far that there was literally nothing left to give. Would you have done the same thing if you were in my place? Before you judge me, let me take you through the whole ridiculous nightmare from the start, because trust me, it's a story that feels like it belongs on some messed up reality show. It all really blew up in one moment, but the truth is, it had been building for years. My sister, who I'll call Miriam, has always had a sense of entitlement that could probably fuel a small country. I don't know if it came from childhood, or the way my parents raised us, or just her personality in general, but she grew up believing the world owed her something. Even when we were kids, she acted like everything belonged to her, my toys, my space, my time. If I had something, she assumed it was also hers. If I achieved something, she somehow twisted it to be about her. And if things didn't go exactly the way she wanted, she'd either play victim or explode. No in between. Meanwhile, I was the older brother who had to understand her feelings, and not provoke her. That was my parents' favorite line, just be patient with Miriam. You know how she is? Trust me, I knew exactly how she was. But when you grow up constantly being told to take the high road, you start believing that's your job in life. Fast forward to adulthood. I'm 32 now, married, financially stable, and honestly proud of the life I've built. My wife Alina is amazing, calm, supportive, the kind of person who actually listens instead of reacting. Meanwhile, Miriam is 28, married to a guy named Sad, who honestly is as fed up with her as everyone else, but too spendless to admit it. They have 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and because I'm the responsible sibling, I somehow ended up babysitting those kids way more than any childless married man should. Every family gathering, every weekend plan, every random evening, someone would ask, "Can you just watch the kids for a bit?" And before I could even think of saying no, Miriam would shove the diaper bag in my hand and disappear. Here's the thing, I love my niece and nephew. They're cute, they're funny, and they didn't choose their parents, so none of this is on them. But babysitting eventually turned from occasional help to expected responsibility, and it wasn't fair. I have a job, I have my own life, I'm not their third parent. But saying that out loud was impossible because the moment I hinted at boundaries, I was met with dramatic tears and accusations like, "You don't love your family," or "You think you're better than us because you have money." And honestly, I was so tired of the drama that sometimes I just gave in to keep the peace. So when I planned a Haji family vacation, a full luxury beach resort trip for my entire family, it wasn't out of obligation. I genuinely wanted to do something nice. I'd had a great year financially, and since my parents hadn't gone anywhere big in years, I felt like surprising everyone. I paid for the flights, the hotel, the activities, everything. $18,000. For some people that's nothing, but for me that's a lot. It was a gift, not a requirement. I wanted everyone to relax, unwind, and actually feel like a family again. And for a while, things seemed good. Everyone was excited, my parents were emotional, and even Miriam was unusually sweet. But that sweetness didn't last. It never does. The issue started 3 weeks before the trip. My wife and I planned a small weekend getaway, a simple 2-day break just for the 2 of us. Nothing extravagant, nothing complicated. Just some time to recharge and enjoy each other's company before the big family trip. As soon as Miriam heard about it, she called me late at night sounding frantic like I'd ruined her entire life. "Listen, I need you to babysit on Saturday," she said, not asked. Said, "Sad and I have a wedding to attend. No kids allowed. You're free, right? You're not doing anything important." I paused and said, "Actually, we already have plans that weekend. Alina and I are going out of town." "You're joking," she snapped. "Cancel it. I already told the bride we'd be there. You know how embarrassing it would be for me to back out now." I calmly repeated, "I can't. This is the only weekend we have before the big trip, and we already paid for the reservation." Her tone immediately shifted into that guilt-loaded whine she'd perfected over the years. "You never help me anymore. You know how hard my life is with 2 kids. You know I never get to go anywhere. You're so selfish sometimes." I swear I closed my eyes and counted to 10 before replying, "Miriam, I help you all the time. But I'm allowed to have my own plans." Apparently, those 2 sentences were enough to ignite World War II. She started screaming full volume, accusing me of abandoning her, telling me I had a savior complex, saying that I only paid for the family trip to show off, that I didn't really care about anyone, that I just wanted control. She even dragged my wife into it, saying Alina was turning me against my own blood. I just stared at my phone in disbelief. All of this because I said no one time. Oni team. I tried to end the call calmly, but she wasn't done, not even close. If you don't babysit, she said, don't expect me or my kids to be fake and pretend we're happy on your stupid expensive vacation. In fact, if you won't support me as your sister, then don't think you can ever count on me again. I swear you'll regret this. That last line, that wasn't emotional manipulation. That was a full-on threat. I finally hung up because there was no point continuing. But my hands were literally shaking. I'd never heard her go this far. Even Alina was stunned, and she's seen a lot from Miriam. We sat in silence for a while, and then Alina gently asked, "Are you okay?" I wasn't. I was exhausted. Years of putting up with her tantrums, her entitlement, her selfishness, all of it weighed on me at once. I realized that no matter how much I tried to help, she would always want more. And she would always twist everything to make herself the victim. And I couldn't live like that anymore. For the next few days, Miriam didn't apologize. She didn't acknowledge anything she said. Instead, she sent me short passive-aggressive messages, like, kids are excited about the trip. Hope nothing ruins it, or, we need the bigger room because the kids get cranky in small spaces, thanks. She talked like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't screamed at me, like she hadn't threatened me, like I was just supposed to ignore everything. Then came the final straw. My mom called me one evening sounding hesitant. Not sad, not angry, just uncomfortable. She said Miriam had told her some concerning things. Apparently, Miriam told my parents that I refused to babysit for no reason, that I was changing after getting money, that I didn't care about family anymore, and that my wife was controlling my decisions. Hearing my mother repeat those lies broke something inside me. Miriam wasn't just trying to guilt-trip me anymore. She was trying to ruin my relationships within my own family just because I didn't drop my life for her convenience. And my mom, she didn't know what to believe. That hurt the most. I realized then that the vacation I had planned, the one I paid for, the one I organized, the one I put so much effort and excitement into, had already turned into ammunition in Miriam's hands. And if we actually went on that trip together, she would ruin everything. She'd cause drama. She'd throw tantrums. She'd complain about rooms and food and schedules. She'd make the entire experience miserable, then blame me for it. I could see the disaster coming from miles away. I stayed quiet for 2 days, thinking, analyzing, trying to calm myself enough to make a reasonable decision. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became I wasn't about to spend 18 grand on a trip just for someone to insult me, use me, and treat me like garbage. And that was when the idea first entered my mind. Not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. What if I canceled the whole thing? What if I took my money, my time, my peace, and used them on people who actually appreciated me? At first, it felt too extreme. Canceling a fully planned family vacation for 8 people was huge. But why was I hesitating? Because I was scared of Miriam's reaction. She already treated me like trash. What more could she do? That night, I looked at Alina and said, "Tell me honestly, should we cancel?" She didn't tell me what to do. She just said, "If someone is willing to take advantage of you once, they'll do it again. And she's done it hundreds of times. You deserve peace, even if it upsets people." And that was all I needed. The next morning I picked up the phone, took a deep breath, and called the travel agent. I canceled everything. Refunds processed, reservations undone. The entire trip wiped clean. The trip that had taken me months to plan. The trip everyone was excited for. The trip that cost me $18,000. Gone. And as the cancellation emails started rolling in, I oddly felt lighter, like I had finally taken back control of my life. Of course, I knew the explosion was coming. I knew Miriam would lose her mind. But I also knew I was done being her punching bag. This time I wasn't backing down. But before I tell you how Miriam reacted, and trust me, it was I want to ask you something directly. So far, this was the situation I was dealing with: years of being taken advantage of, constant guilt-tripping, emotional abuse, and then finally a full-on threat over babysitting. So I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my shoes? Would you have canceled the trip too? Or would you have let it slide just to keep the peace? Because the storm that hit after this, I'm not sure anyone could have prepared me for it. The peace I felt after canceling the trip barely lasted 24 hours because the next morning my phone exploded, missed calls, voice notes, angry texts. First from Miriam, then my mom, then even Sad, who usually stays silent. It was like watching a storm build on the horizon and finally crash down with full force. But even then, I didn't realize how insane the fallout was going to be. It started with a long, drawn-out scream-filled voice note from Miriam. She wasn't crying, no, crying would have been normal. She was shrieking I had stolen her entire life savings. She yelled, her voice cracking. The kids, of course. She weaponized them again, like she always does. I didn't even listen to the remaining voice notes. There were 15 more. All between 30 seconds and 2 minutes each. All full of accusations and personal attacks. I skimmed through the text messages instead, and every line made my jaw clench tighter. I know you were selfish. You embarrassed us. You're punishing me for being a mother. You want to destroy our family. You think money gives you power, but it just makes you pathetic. Really, money makes me pathetic. The same money she expected to fund her entire leisure trip. I ignored her and focused on the messages from my parents. My mom was confused. My dad was surprisingly quiet, just a short message asking what happened. I called him first because he wasn't the type to jump to conclusions. When he picked up, he sounded tired. Not angry, not defensive, just tired. Beta, what's going on? Miriam is crying and saying the whole trip is cancelled. I explained everything. Not just the babysitting issue, but the years of manipulation, the screaming, the threats, the lies she told them about me and Alina. I told him how she spoke to me, how she treated me, how she made me feel. I expected him to argue or defend her. But instead, he just sighed deeply and said, I knew she was difficult, but I didn't know it was this bad. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. Truly seen. He said he understood my decision, but warned me that my mom might not take it well. He was right. When I called my mom, she immediately burst into tears. Not because of the vacation, but because the family was falling apart. She begged me to just fix things. She kept saying, you're the older one, Beta. You have to be patient. Miriam is emotional. She doesn't mean what she says. And there it was again. The same line I was told my whole life. You have to be patient. I used to accept that line without question. But now it just felt like another way of saying, your feelings don't matter. I took a deep breath and told her, Ami, I love you. But patience doesn't mean sacrificing my mental health. She crossed a line. She threatened me. She disrespected my wife. I'm not living my life letting her walk all over me anymore. My mom didn't argue after that. She just cried quietly and said she hoped things would settle down. It hurt hearing her cry, but I knew I wasn't wrong. Then Sad called. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. When I answered, he started off unusually calm. Bro, listen, I get you're upset, but canceling the vacation was extreme. The kids were excited. Miriam is devastated. Couldn't you have just talked about it? Talked. Telki, I almost laughed. When had talking ever worked with her? I told him what she said to me, word for word. I told him about the threats, the insults, the manipulation. He went silent for a long time, so long I thought the call had dropped. Then he muttered, didn't know it was that bad. She didn't tell me any of that. Of course she didn't. He apologized not for her, but for being dragged into her chaos. And then he said something that shocked me. Honestly, I don't blame you. This isn't the first time she's blown up like this. I'm tired too. There was so much exhaustion in his voice that it felt like he was sharing a secret he'd been holding in for years. As the day went on, more drama unfolded. Miriam spammed the family group chat with passive-aggressive messages, then emotional ones, then angry ones. Then she switched to pretending she was the victim of some huge betrayal. She wrote paragraphs about how I'd publicly humiliated her by canceling the trip, how she deserved respect as a mother, how I never supported her, how I ruined the kids' summer, how I always favored Alina over my own sister. It was like watching a full Broadway performance. At one point, she even said, everyone should know what kind of brother you really are. And that's when something in me snapped. I wasn't going to let her paint me as the villain anymore, so I quietly left the family group chat. Within 30 seconds, she called me again. This time she didn't scream, she hissed. You think you're better than me. You think money makes you untouchable. You think you can just walk away after ruining everything. If you don't fix this and rebook the trip, I swear you'll regret it. I will never forgive you. Her voice had so much venom in it that I genuinely felt a chill. That was the moment I realized I wasn't dealing with a dramatic sibling. I was dealing with someone who had become emotionally toxic enough to threaten me multiple times without even understanding the gravity of her words. And I said something I never thought I'd say to her. I don't care if you forgive me, Miriam. I'm done. I'm done being used. I'm done being manipulated. I'm done being threatened. Fix your own life. And I hung up. It felt like dropping a weight I had been carrying for years. But the climax wasn't the cancellation. It wasn't the calls. It wasn't the threats. The real climax happened 3 days later. Because that's when Miriam showed up at my house. No warning, no message, no call. She just arrived, banging on the door like she had every right to storm into my life whenever she wanted. When I opened the door, her face was swollen from crying, but her eyes were burning with rage. She pushed past me and walked into my living room like she owned the place. Alina, who was in the kitchen, froze. The tension in the air was suffocating. Miriam pointed her finger at me and shouted, "You destroyed my life! You humiliated me! Everyone is talking about it! Do you know how embarrassed I am?" My life flashed before my eyes as I stood there trying to understand what everyone meant. Turns out she had told her in-laws, her friends, her neighbors, literally anyone who would listen, that I had purposely canceled a vacation out of spite to punish her. She conveniently left out the part where she screamed threats at me. I calmly told her, "I didn't humiliate you. You did that to yourself." That pushed her over the edge. She started pacing around the room, yelling louder, saying I needed therapy, saying I had gone crazy, saying Alina had brainwashed me, saying I ruined the family, saying I didn't deserve to be part of it. She even tried guilt, tripping me again by saying her kids were crying because of me. And then she said the one sentence I will never forget, "You owe me this vacation. You owe it to me. Because I'm the one who needs it the most. Wo don't ni ein leaf. Lu havar waitaimin." And that was when I truly saw her for who she had become, not a struggling mom, not a misunderstood sibling, not someone who needed help, but someone who believed she had rights over me, my money, my time, and my decisions. Someone who believed I owed her a lifestyle simply because we shared DNA. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "I don't owe you anything." And she lost it completely. She threw the nearest thing she could grab, a small decorative bowl, onto the floor, shattering it. Alina gasped. I stepped in front of her instinctively. I had never been scared of my sister before, but in that moment, I genuinely didn't know what she was capable of. She screamed, "You think you can disrespect me like this? You think you can walk away from this? I should never have trusted you. You're dead to me." Then she stormed out, slamming the door so hard it shook the frame. The silence afterward was deafening. Alina put her hand on my shoulder, but I could barely feel anything. I just stood there, staring at the broken pieces on the floor, trying to process what had just happened. I realized that this wasn't about a vacation or babysitting. It wasn't even about money. It was years and years of unspoken resentment, entitlement, emotional manipulation, and dependency coming to a breaking point. After that day, everything changed. My mom begged me to make peace. My dad stayed neutral, but quietly checked on me every day. Sad kept apologizing for her behavior and confessed that their marriage was already falling apart because she treated him the same way she treated me. And Miriam, she blocked me everywhere, deleted my number, pretended like I no longer existed. She even told people that I cut her off to make herself look like the victim. But guess what? For the first time in my life, I felt free. No more last-minute babysitting, no more guilt trips, no more emotional blackmail, no more walking on eggshells, no more sacrificing my happiness to keep her calm. A week later, Alina and I took our own private vacation. We went to a peaceful beach resort. No drama, no crying, no screaming. Just the sound of waves and silence. It was the most peaceful trip of my life. We took long walks, ate good food, watched sunsets, slept in, talked like human beings, not crisis managers. And during that trip, I realized something that changed everything for me. Family is not defined by DNA. Family is defined by respect. My sister had disrespected me for years. I kept giving, and she kept taking. The moment I stopped giving, she tried to break me. That isn't family. That's control. When we came back home, life felt different. Calmer. My parents eventually accepted my decision. My dad even told me privately, sometimes distance is the only way to help someone see their own behavior. My mom still wished we'd reconcile, but she didn't push anymore once she saw how relieved I was living without constant chaos. As for Miriam, months passed. She didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't apologize. She didn't reflect. She didn't take accountability. Instead, she continued playing the victim. But I realized I had zero desire to fix anything unless she did the work to fix herself. And honestly, that's okay. She made her choices, I made mine. And I finally chose peace. So yeah, that's how my sister threatened me over babysitting, and I ended up canceling an entire $18,000 family vacation I had paid for, only to discover that peace is more valuable than any trip, any family obligation, or any fake harmony. And maybe you'll think I went too far. Maybe you'll think I should have forgiven her. Maybe you'll think family should always stay together no matter what. But after everything she put me through, I genuinely believe I made the right decision. But what do you think? Was I wrong for canceling the vacation? Was I wrong for finally standing up for myself? Would you have done the same thing, or would you have tried to keep the peace even if it destroyed your mental health? If you were on my side, like this video. If you've ever dealt with a toxic family member, subscribe for more stories like this. And tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place.